So late last year sometime, my mum asked me if I wanted to join her on a trip to China and Hong Kong. It was twofold. The trip to China was to go and see where her father, my grandpa, was born. And the second part of the trip, Hong Kong, was to have a huge Indo family reunion. I was in a pretty bad place last year, low on output and high on drugs. I didn't really have an excuse not to go, so when mum asked if I wanted to join her on the trip, I said yes without too much thought. And, in retrospect, I think that could very well be the key to all of this, i.e., being decisive. So, when the time came to go, I realized I knew nothing of the trip at all. But I thought I'd reach out to my younger local cousins to come with me. But they weren't into the idea of an oldies family reunion in Hong Kong. Fair call. Like, I've been to Hong Kong more times than any other country, and I don't particularly love visiting the place. So I totally understood why they didn't want to come. But it turns out China was everything that I expected and more. Initially, we landed in Xiamen. It's like this super modern, spotless, clean, super quiet. It's like man-made. We were put up in a five-star hotel. I had crazy ocean views. I could even see a roller coaster on the beach. My first reaction was, "Oh shit!" It's just not what I expected. I expected a pilgrimage, not a five-star hotel. But luckily, as the trip went on, we saw more and more history and culture. And on day 3, we hopped on our little bus and we drove pretty far out into the mountains. And finally, we got to this clearing where there didn't used to be roads, but now there were roads as Grandpa apparently had laid them down before he passed. This one tiny little road led to a clearing where there was a village, rice fields. The scene was just crazy, legit, nuts. We spent hours at this place, and amazingly, the night before, we got a call from the villagers to say that it turns out the day that we arrived in the village was bang on my grandpa's 30th anniversary of his passing. So it's just it was all meant to be. It was all perfect timing. The vibe was electric. It was a celebration. The villagers were out and about. Some of the kids were out in like traditional dress. There were firecrackers. There was heaps of food. Incense was burning, and we were burning money for Grandpa in heaven. We had a billion tea ceremonies at lots of the houses of the different villages. It was all the stuff that I had around me when I was growing up as a kid. The feeling was like overly heart related. It was just so warming, heartwarming, and at the same time, though, I couldn't help but feel this massive frustration. I just found myself really angry that my cousins weren't next to me, like that they'd missed out on an opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, I was really feeling super happy one second, and then I'd be feeling super angry another second. The rage just took over me sometimes, and I even let it out in front of the entire group that was with us at some stage. I had a go at my mum's younger sisters too for not wanting to come. I didn't mean to have a go at them. I still don't mean to now. It's all about each to their own and all of that. But just like I said, it was overwhelming at the time. I just couldn't help it. At the time, I was just feeling like extreme joy and just sadness that my closest family weren't there with me. In retrospect, it just makes me hyper aware that my family culture is dying at a rapid rate. When grandma was around, culture was thick as. We had a pray table for Grandpa in the dining room. We prayed to him before we ate, to make sure he was full and content before we ate our food. So, that meant that our food was cold by the time we ate it, because we had to wait till Grandpa was done with it. We burned money for him in heaven. We sat all day and rolled that money and shoved it all in huge garbage bags and burnt it for him. And when Grandma passed and that house was sold, the family split up. Everyone bought sexy modern houses. All their houses were filled with sexy modern furniture. I suppose no one wanted Grandpa's old brass, Asian-style prey table. It just would have looked out of whack with everyone's houses. So, that table is long gone, and the shrine, basically a shrine to him, is long gone. And I'd love to see it again. If anything, I'd love to have it and display it at my place, but it's long gone. Either way, I'm super glad that I went, and I feel more grounded than ever. My distant cousins were they were kids ages ago. You see them every few years, and they were there and probably wondering what the hell, who is this crazy uncle from Australia and why does he talk so much? But, at the end of the trip, we got along real fine, and that was awesome. All right, so on that note, thanks for listening to my first podcast. It's been weird and awesome. I'm sure I get more and more comfortable with it as time goes on, and there'll be shitloads more to come. So I'll see you guys around. Bye.